Very
Okie
good.
dokie. All right. Let's see here.
You may fire when ready.
Okay, I just have to get my timer. All right. In 3, 2, 1. And welcome. It is Perilous World Radio. Jan Masters joining me today. David Masters, good to be here, Jan. Good to have you.
Thank you. It's great to be here, David.
So the big news this morning, which it should have been big news a long time ago, but it's news today. The American Society of Plastic Surgeons now recommends that surgeons will wait until patients are at least 19 years old before subjecting them to transition surgeries. Your thoughts?
Recommends. Does that mean there's any consequences if they don't? I wonder.
Well, it's an official position that they've taken on not doing child mutilations.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what happened is recently a young woman won $2 million judgment against a doctor.
Ah, okay.
Oh, yeah. This is big news also. That's news that was, a few days old, but I think that, and I did hear that there are at least 30 lawsuits against doctors for doing these transition surgeries. And so I think it's a CYA move.
Yes.
I don't think they have any conscience in any way, shape, or form. Can you imagine? Did you ever watch any of these programs where they take people and they reconnoiter them and they do everything from their face to their chest to all the other things that they can do to somebody, the butt,
to transition? Or
no,
to just plastic surgery?
Just plastic surgery.
Oh.
I mean, it is crazy.
Oh my gosh, there's certain famous people out there right now that look nothing like theirself. They completely redo theirself. Ozzy Osbourne's daughter, I can't think of her name. She looks like a completely different woman. Yeah. And there's a lot of them out there, and it's wow. It's kind of
I got another one for
sickness. You. Yeah.
Laura Trump. I mean, 10 years ago.
Oh,
10 years ago, there are pictures showing, the before and after. She looks like she's still got her face, but she looks 25 years younger.
Laura, the one that's always on the news?
Laura Trump. Yeah.
Well, I'm not surprised. Well, you know who else has had a lot of plastic surgery is Ivanka. Ivanka Trump. Donald Trump's daughter. Mm-hmm. If you look way back, you will see, and there's articles about it. She's, I guess that's the thing when you have money and you want to be one of the beautiful people, you make it happen.
Well, yeah, I guess. I don't know. I know that there are compulsions that people have, and one of those, most powerful compulsions is vanity.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if vanity is one of the 7 deadly sins, but I think it leads down a really dark rabbit hole.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, nobody can be beautiful forever.
Yeah.
It just isn't possible.
Well, and in this day and age, David, with social media, it's all about how you look and how you present yourself and the filters and, the camera eye is so much more intense today, whereas, years and years ago, you weren't always being seen on a camera. So it has intensified, especially for young women who are just, trying as hard as they can to live up to these ridiculous standards. So, yeah.
Well, I can tell you that I used to have a next door neighbor that at the age, she worked at a doctor's office, but at the age of about 28 or 29, she started doing Botox, and she wasn't even old. She was young.
Wow.
And she started Botoxing here and Botoxing there. And preventative de-ugliness. I don't know.
The problem is once you start that, you kind of have to keep it going because you're everything deflates, you know?
Right. And then I don't know if you remember, but the tragic story of Joan Rivers.
Yes.
She was having a surgery and she died while having some kind of a surgery,
I
a
didn't know it
plastic
was a
surgery of
plastic
some sort.
surgery.
I think it was.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so I don't know. I don't know. I do have audio of Chloe Cole. Are you familiar with her?
Chloe Cole? Remind me who that might be.
Chloe Cole was transitioned around the age of 14 or 15, had a double
Oh,
mastectomy.
yes, yes. I
Yeah, I
think,
mean, she's
mhm.
so brilliant. And so I've got a clip of her talking about her experience with this whole thing. Here
All
it
right.
comes.
So the conversation was primarily focused on the so-called benefits of these treatments, like that they would stop my female puberty and the testosterone would make me appear and my body start to look more like a young man's with increased body hair, musculature, different fat distribution. And the surgery, I was told, was part of the physical cosmetic masculinization process. But when the complications were spoken about, it was in a way that made it seem like it was either all normal, part of the process, or like it was unlikely to happen. It doesn't matter how far they went, they could have gone into the discussion with me anyways, because I was a child. There was nothing they could say to me that would make me understand the gravity of what I was about to go through, because I was still growing up. My mom and dad were very sensible, actually. They never thought that I was transgender. They never believed that I was a boy or their son. They knew that I was their daughter. But it felt like all odds were stacked against them. At the time when we started going through this as a family, there really were no resources that would speak to the reality of transgenderism, especially for children, because most people were not aware then that this was something that was even happening in our hospital systems.
So there it is. I mean, you
Wow.
talk about, having hair and, a more masculine looking body. I mean, this is Frankenstein territory, in my opinion. And these people who do this kind of thing, I think there's a special place in hell for them.
Yes, for
I'm not talking about the people that are the
not
victims. I'm
right,
talking about the
right.
doctors. Yeah.
100%. It's
Mhm.
kind of like the people that try to stand outside the abortion clinics and give these women some other information to make a good decision.
Mhm.
Well, they don't want to do that. Like she said, they just tell you all the good things it will do. But what about all the risks, And of course, a child should never be making this decision. It's just evil on such
You know what's so weird, Jan, is that
yeah.
in public school, you know that the nurse in the nurse's office is not allowed to even give them a Tylenol.
What?
Oh, yeah. That is the truth. The nurse
Really?
is not allowed to give them a Tylenol without parental
Without
permission.
parental consent. But they can help them transition.
But they can help them transition. I mean, this is pure evil. These purple-haired, nose-ringed, overweight, sick representations of evil, and that's just what they are. And there's a revolution going on right now in America, and it finally people have said enough. But enough kids have been thrown into the volcano as a child sacrifice. I mean, that's, in my opinion,
100%.
We've gone all the way back to the ancient days of throwing your children, to some kind of into the fire, in my opinion.
That is so true.
Yeah.
Child sacrifice has a lot of different faces, doesn't it? Whether it's aborting your child, sacrificing them for your career, or sacrificing them to the culture to destroy themselves. It has many different faces, and it's a travesty to watch what the children are going through today.
And the other thing is that these wasted human, I don't even know what the word I want to use, because these people that allow their children to go through this stuff and even encourage them, you want to be a boy or a girl today, Johnny? Those people face something unspeakable in their future life, the afterlife, whatever. It's indescribable how horrifying this is. But we got to take a quick break here, and I've got a lot more audio of Chloe Cole that I'm going to play from a few years ago when she was really just starting to speak out about this. Now, FHU.com is where you find out about the Be Still and No Exercise. We'll be right back.
Now, before you go on, somebody said that my audio is a lot higher than yours.
You know, I only saw that one comment, and sometimes people do have
right. So if anybody else is
bandwidth
noticing
issues or
anything like
whatever.
that,
Yeah.
let us know.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think if I don't notice it myself,
Okay. Yeah.
you know, it sounds pretty normal to me. So
Okay.
okay, my eyes are going. All right, I have my audio. So in 3, GW Rumble says it's higher but tolerable. And Enough Pet says Jan. So maybe we should
Bit
let
louder.
Mr. Jones.
Okay.
Yeah, would you?
I
would you let
actually
me know?
can turn mine down just a hair.
Okay, turn it down just a
Okay,
hair.
just turned it down just a little bit.
Okay.
You guys can let me know. Sounds
All
a little
right.
bit lower in my headphones, so we'll see.
Okay. All right. In 3, 2, 1. Yeah, somebody said better.
Okay.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. All right, welcome back. And we're talking about the news today that the American Society of Plastic Destroyers, surgeons, now recommends that surgeons will wait until patients are at least 19 before subjecting them. That's an interesting use of the word.
Yes, it is.
To transition surgeries. Yeah, it's a little late, I would say,
Yeah.
for these evil doers. And, you know, God will deal with them. But you know, the wake of this, it reminds me of, I don't know, we've seen these crazy people that take their cars and run over people at parades. You know what I'm talking about? Now there's a wake behind the evil that has been done, the wake of human suffering, which again is unspeakable. It's unspeakable. You know, there's one guy did it, I think, within the last year or so, just took his car and ran right into a parade, and 25, 30 people mowed down. I mean,
Well, David, the same thing is happening with ICE and the people against ICE. And what is underpinning it all? Hate. It's all underpinned by hate. And over the last decades, they have been seeding hate, hatred for America, hatred for parents, hatred for God, hatred for anything decent. And this is what has landed us here. Underpinning it, pure hatred.
Pure hatred from hell is what it is. It's just hatred from hell. Here comes another clip of Chloe Cole. Uh-oh. I'm going to have to load that on the next break because I had to restart my computer. So that's weird. So the idea, let me just see. I've got Roy Masters also today.
Okay.
And he's talking about, and I hope this clip works, the real reason why people will take the mark of the beast. Now, see, these people, in my opinion, are beast people. They've left God. They've left reason. They've left truth and light. And they've gone into this dark rabbit hole of weirdness. Let's see if this one works. Nope, that one doesn't work either. Okay, I'll have to load all these pieces of audio when I come back.
Well, I have a comment on that. Did you happen to look at any of what has come out on the Epstein files?
No.
Okay, there is an interview, a long interview of him with, can't think of the guy who interviewed him, but it's a very long interview. First of all, it was very...
Steve Bannon.
Steve Bannon, okay.
I saw that.
Okay, so it was very strange to hear his voice, number one, because all
He's
I've
a
ever,
very kind of like this kind of guy.
yeah,
He
yeah,
talks kind of like a
was a
cartoon
little,
character.
it was a little whiny.
Yeah.
I was kind of, I don't know why, shocked at that, and I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched some of it, and oh my gosh, David, this is an intellectual, evil person who speaks very reasonably and logically. He opines about the spirit and all these things. And you're watching this guy just going, how his face, like Steve Bannon at one point said, have you ever seen someone die? And and then the spirit isn't there anymore or something. But he didn't answer the question. He didn't answer the question, and he didn't make any notable response. You see what I'm saying? Very sophisticated, evil person, very knowledgeable of money and how it works and systems. And so he was, I'm sure to some people intelligent, but evil is also very intelligent. And there is a lot in these files that is just horrible. And there was something I saw that said he was behind or part of this transgender movement as well, which doesn't surprise me.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it kind of turned my stomach, even just watching him and knowing the evil that he is and seeing the seductive nature that he had. Just, what do you do with it all? Is anybody going to go to jail for any of this? I don't know. It's just sort of like all out there now.
All right. I've reloaded Chloe Cole, and let me see if I can play this.
People across the entire political spectrum who believe that this practice is morally wrong have been told that they are fascists or bigots for even questioning this atrocity. Others have been convinced by self-proclaimed gender specialists that this is the only treatment that will not end in your child committing suicide. I believe Americans deserve to know the truth about this radical and perverse ideology, marketed as necessary and life-saving healthcare. I was only 12 years old when I told my parents that I was a boy. Like many parents in that situation, they didn't have a clue what to do. They were scared and desperate for answers. They wanted what every parent wants for their child, for me to be okay and thrive. At 13 years old, on the advice of so-called medical professionals, I was put on puberty-blocking medication. And only a month later, I was given my first testosterone injection. The gender clinic presented my parents with the classic false dichotomy regarding children with gender dysphoria.
Yeah. David, I don't hear you.
The false dichotomy is that they give you two impossible choices. You either allow your child to do this or that child ends up committing suicide. Now, in my opinion, I'm going back to Jeffrey Epstein. If a person can be a pedophile, they can be anything. Anything evil. Anything.
Yes.
So if Jeffrey Epstein was behind the transition thing, well, first of all, there's money in it for him somehow because he has influence. But at the same time, it reminds me of, did you ever see the movie The 300?
No, but I've heard a lot about it.
So there's a scene where the hunchback, who is a major character of betrayal in this story, he shows up in front of Xerxes, and he's inside of Xerxes' camp. And in his camp, Xerxes is surrounded by a freak show of twisted up, mutilated people. And Xerxes says to him, if you'll just bow to me, you can have anything you want. And the hunchback says, I want it all. And he's just surrounded by freaks, people without arms and limbs, and just the freakiest. They look like people at ICE protests. But anyway, this is the Jeffrey Epstein. He was like a little, my name is Jeffrey Epstein. I'm kind of like Xerxes. He was kind of like a studly Woody Allen.
Yeah, just an intellectual pervert.
Yeah.
Truly is
Yeah.
what he is. He admitted that he worked with the Rothschilds. He just had mega money behind him. The
5 seconds.
the architects of evil.
We
That's
gotta
what
take a
he
break.
represented.
We'll continue on the other side here.
I
Okay.
thought you were going to go just a tiny bit long because of the
Oh, no, that's
The
only
second
yeah,
over
that's
there
just
about.
a few
Okay.
seconds. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It's just a quick gap.
All right.
All right. I've got another Chloe call. I got 4 more. So in 3, 2, 1. All right. Continuing this this painful conversation about the evils that have been done. But I mean, objectively speaking, I can't even imagine being the child of a liberal Democrat. To me, that may one day be looked back upon as a definition of child abuse, because the moral guidelines that are needed to grow up to become a successful person, there are certain aspects of those moral guidelines that just are not present. And you see all these kids now, the teachers letting these kids out of class to go protest ICE.
Yep.
I mean,
that.
can you imagine? Like, oh, yes, Johnny, go out and protest ICE today.
Encouraging rebellion and hatred of our country.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw it years and years ago when my kids were little in the Nickelodeon programs. The parents were always stupid people and the kids were smart. The parents knew nothing.
Well, that's The Simpsons. That's one of the biggest successful cartoon shows in history.
It's all about tearing down any type of authority.
Yeah.
And it's taken many decades to get here, but we're here. We're reaping the reward, the terrible reward of that. But at the same time, a backlash is coming. The backlash is happening, like the Chloe Coles and the kids that are going to see through it all, see the mess of it all, the emptiness of it all.
A reason revolution. Because people are waking up. I mean, how much suffering can you take before you say, I've had enough?
Yeah.
I mean, you can tap out when you're in a wrestling contest. It's tap out and they got to let you up. But unfortunately, there are people who embrace the twisted side of pain. I mean, just think about what it means to go from being a man to and the mental, psychological, even spiritual energy involved in pretending to be a woman. I was going to record some of these people who are against the American the plastic surgeons coming out against transitioning, and they are there with those false dichotomies. It's like, you feel discriminated against, but you know what? You go to the store and you're going to discriminate against apples if you like oranges. There is discrimination in every aspect of human experience. Now, some is cruel discrimination.
Right.
Some is based on evil, but discrimination is a natural part of human experience.
Well, it's the rejection of all boundaries. No boundaries anywhere is what they preach. And of course, in the garden, you could have anything you wanted except for the tree in the middle of the knowledge of good and evil. God had a boundary. Even though he gave them everything, there was one boundary. And that it wasn't boundaryless in the garden. There was a boundary for a reason. I'm God, you're not, and this is the boundary I set. And when you set, so now when anybody's given a boundary or perceives boundaries, they don't want it. Whether it's you don't have to be a female or a male, it's hatred of the boundaries of God. He set the boundaries of what reality is, of what male and female is. Without boundaries, David, there is no creation. There's no creation. To form the earth, he had to make boundaries. So it's rejecting God's boundaries and creating your own. Hatred of God, I'm God. I will choose. Like I said, the underpinnings is always hate.
Well, it is also the twisting of reality, because these people who are fueled by hatred, they see boundaries, also known as God, as an oppressor.
Yes.
And so whoever comes along to liberate them from the oppressor holds themselves out to be some kind of special hero type.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Jeffrey Epsteins of the world.
Yeah.
Yes, and they're rewarded to get money and power and influence and everything they want.
Well, didn't the serpent portray God as the oppressor?
Mm-hmm.
He certainly did. He's holding you back, Eve. He's
Yep.
holding you back. That's the message of the left.
It's crazy if objectively looking at these people, and you know, it's the support for ICE is continuing to be very high. So the average person looks at it and goes, "These people are nuts." And then when they ask them, the man on the street interviews, like, "Well, let's just say somebody comes over and breaks into your home. How do you feel about that?" No, I don't want that.
Exactly.
It's so easy to show them the error of their thinking until they go back to something that doesn't affect them directly. So
Right.
if it's just a rebellion against ICE, well, they're okay with that. But if it's something that affects them directly, not so much. But you know, how many people have their houses broken into? Not that many. I mean, you know, home invasions are occasional. And this is the idea, though, is that there is a strange mass formation psychosis involved in these people that will elect. It's cutting off your nose to spite your face. That's what they're doing. They're looking at their nose, and if it has any orange pigment in it, well, that's a Trump nose. I'm going to cut it off. This is what they're doing. They're cutting off their nose to spite their face.
Yeah.
It's very sick. Here comes another Chloe Cole clip here.
The first question might
That's
be, why
not it.
should you even
Okay.
That's
Would
it.
you rather have a dead daughter or a living son? Given these options, what loving parent wouldn't choose to transition their child? Scared for my life. My parents were prepared to sign anything the doctors asked. This was not informed consent. It was a decision forced under extreme duress. At 15, I went under the knife for a radical double mastectomy, the kind that breast cancer patients get. This was after I was sexually assaulted at school by a male student. I just told myself to man up, but I lived my life in constant hatred of my breasts. I started binding, which deformed my breasts as well as my ribcage. I was afraid, and I couldn't wait to finally protect my body from the threat of further molestation. At 16, I finally realized what happened to me, that I had made a huge mistake. I realized the beauty of motherhood was stolen from me by medical professionals who my family entrusted me to.
You know, it's weird to think about this, but there are people who they have to have something to focus on. And this is what was done to this victim of psychological warfare. And because she was she was attacked by a young man at school, she thought, well, if I didn't have the breasts, then I wouldn't be the subject or the
So she was
target.
attacked before all this happened?
Yeah, she went and had the
okay,
surgery
so the
after
trauma,
she was attacked. Yeah,
The trauma was
translated.
what started her on that. And she said the
No,
beauty.
it wasn't. That's not
Yeah.
what started her. She already had gender dysphoria when she was like,
Oh.
she said 12 years old.
Okay, and then she got attacked. What age?
Then she got attacked, and then she started binding, and then she
okay.
deformed herself,
Okay.
including her ribcage. She did all these things to
Wow.
avoid being noticed.
To avoid being a woman and being noticed. Yeah. So she said the beauty of motherhood was stolen from her.
Yes.
So what people don't realize is that is actually the ultimate goal here is population control.
Yep.
You destroy your body. Men destroy their ability to conceive, to father children, and women destroy their ability to carry them. It's just one more arm of population control, and you know, brainwashing people. You know, it's just sick. And if you are an enabler to enable these things, it's because of your own hatred and rebellion toward God yourself. That's really what it is. It's the age-old war, David.
Yeah.
Between good and evil.
People do not have the sense that when they have hatred, I don't care what it's toward or for what reason,
Mm.
that it is actually directed because that hatred is not of the natural law. You know, in the natural world, there's no such thing as hatred in the natural world
Right.
other than humans.
Right.
Hatred is a directed energy weapon from human to human from the dark side. So they don't even know that what they're actually doing is being directed to hating the creator himself. And, because in the scripture, it talks about how, we are created in the image of God, right? We're created in the image and the likeness of God. So that any kind of hatred pits you against God, and the love of the world puts you at enmity with God. That's more than an enemy. Enmity is this abiding conflict with God.
Absolutely. Hatred was non-existent before the fall. But what happened?
Didn't exist.
What's funny is that every time you talk about what happened in the garden, it's all there. It's all there.
It's all there.
The serpent planting doubt about God's intentions, that he's the oppressor. He doesn't really care about you. It relates to everything. Hatred of the creator, because to honor the creator is to not put yourself first. Okay. And what we want to do is put ourselves first. And I'll never forget this interview by this old pastor. I think we may have even played it on here.
About 30 seconds.
Okay. I'll tell you on the other side.
Yeah. One of our chatters says, Eyes to See says, in China, 36 million people were hounded and perhaps 1 million died in the turmoil. Children marched their own families to death, parroting them in dunce caps. Now, if you want to see an example of that, see the Three Bodies Problem on Netflix. It's a science fiction movie, but in the beginning, it shows this very thing, that these college professors are murdered in front of their daughter because they believed in God. We'll be right back. I believe it's called The Three Body Problem.
Okay.
Really interesting. It's about aliens coming to destroy Earth, but it's the beginning starts with communism. Very interesting.
Right.
Communist China. All right. Last segment of this hour in 3, 2, 1. And continuing the conversation about the news of the day, the American Society of Plastic Surgeons now recommends that surgeons wait until patients are at least 19 before subjecting them. And it is a subjection to the transition surgery. So, it's about time, these idiots. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was going to finish a point on the other side is that this old pastor, he had a life after death experience, and he was in hell. And I can't remember all the details. All I remember is the conversation he had with God or Jesus. And he was like, God, why am I here? I served you. I gave all glory to you. I did all these things in your name, just like it says in the scripture, right? And Jesus said, no, you did not. You served a God other than me. And he was saying, but I did this and I did that and I did this every day and I pastored and I did all these things. Finally, he said, no, you served a different God. And that God is the God of yourself. Where you might have thought he would say Satan. No, it's the God of yourself. That is the self that the serpent encouraged Eve to worship, was herself. So it's all about making yourself a God. And anything that gets in your way receives your hatred. And hatred, David, feels empowering. There's a certain power you can feel with hate. And it feels like you are empowered, but it's actually just a dark force that you are channeling through you. And the power of love is completely different. It's a completely different, it's actually a life force that flows through you. Whereas the power of hatred is a destructive force. So when you put yourself as number one over everyone and everything, well, there you go. You're worshiping the God of yourself, and you know not the creator of the universe.
Well, I have to say that I don't believe anybody is born being angry.
No,
It's
no, I
not
don't believe that either.
natural or innate condition of a human being. It's something that develops. And then, of course, there are injustices that help you to rationalize being angry and revengeful. Remember, the Bible also says, "Revenge is mine, saith the Lord." But at the same time, a person who feels powerless, they have the machinations of the mind. I'm going to get back at that person. I'm going to teach that person a lesson. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
There's something that arises in response to injustice.
Yes.
And then, of course, there are people that also they submit to the injustice, and they become, like in Nazi concentration camps, they picked certain Jewish people to oversee the suffering of their fellow Jews. These were the most compliant because, they had turned and embraced the punishments of their people, and they didn't want to be subject to it. So,
Right.
anger is a very complex thing.
So of course, children can respond with anger when they don't get what they want, but the job of the parent is to neutralize, correct and neutralize without adding their own anger into it. Otherwise, they just breed more anger. Correct and neutralize so that the child could come back to the non-angry state and realize they're not the center of the universe, and it's okay to not get what you want. My parent doesn't hate me. My parent still has their sense about them. They're not rejecting me. See what I'm saying? It's all very, very, very intricately woven and subtle, the way you handle your children. You can bring them out of that if you don't go into it.
So the Bible also talks about anger quite a bit, talks about the wrath of God, but it also talks about anger in a practical way, which is don't let the sun set on your wrath.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a way, having an ego and having a little spark from the divine creator means that we also have the propensity to be terribly offended and aggrieved. And so in the day where, when Jesus walked the earth, he understood that. So, but at the same time, he was basically saying, try to get things resolved between yourselves, and so
right.
It's not like it's like, I don't think it's necessarily a sin to be angry, but it's a sin to defend it.
Well, and to wallow in it and stay in it and make a final judgment, offenses will come.
Yeah.
All of us will suffer offenses, but God does not want us to hold in debt every person that has offended us, because then he can't pull us out of our debt toward him.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive us as we forgive those. Realizing, okay, people have offended me. They have hurt me. Some people have done horrible things to me. And I'm not talking about me, myself, but I'm talking about, people who have suffered horrendous, abuse, sexual abuse and things like that are much more difficult, but they Jesus still says, just look at me. Keep your eyes on me. I will take you and show you who you really are. You don't need that anger. You don't need what happened in the past to define you.
10 seconds here, and we'll take a quick break. FHU.com is where you find out about the Be Still and Know. It is a realignment mechanism. I'll be right back. Ooh. All right, that's hour one. Okay. And continuing here in 3, 2, 1. And it is Perilous World Radio. Jan Masters joining me today, David Masters, and we're talking about a number of things. But this transitioner, Chloe Cole, she's, man, I'll tell you, she's a brave woman, young woman. I think she's probably not more than, gosh, I want to say 24, 25 years old, very intelligent human being. And, you know, a big part of that, in my opinion, Jan, is the fact that she suffered so much. And that suffering brought her to a realization. And the first thing that I heard her say was that she realized when she was 16 years old that she'd made a terrible mistake.
Wow.
I can play that clip again.
Did we already play it once?
I think I played it once. Let me play it again.
Okay.
I think here it is.
Would you rather have a dead daughter or a living son? Given these options, what loving parent wouldn't choose to transition their child? Scared for my life. My parents were prepared to sign anything the doctors asked. This was not informed consent. It was a decision forced under extreme duress. At 15, I went under the knife for a radical double mastectomy, the kind that breast cancer patients get. This was after I was sexually assaulted at school by a male student. I just told myself to man up, but I lived my life in constant hatred of my breasts. I started binding, which deformed my breasts as well as my ribcage. I was afraid, and I couldn't wait to finally protect my body from the threat of further molestation. At 16, I finally realized what happened to me, that I had made a huge mistake. I realized the beauty of motherhood was stolen from me by medical professionals who my family entrusted me to.
It's just gut-wrenching. It's just terrifying.
And so what is she doing? She's using her life to help others. What was meant to destroy her, she is now going to use for the good. And this is the whole principle throughout the scriptures, that what the enemy intends for, to destroy you, God will use for the good if you turn toward him.
And I think that it's important to recognize that she doesn't hate her parents.
Yes. She realizes they were misled as well.
Yeah. And now this is called Stockholm Syndrome under other circumstances where people are taken hostage. And it's mainly ideological because the hostage takers understand that they give them these false dichotomies. You either support our cause, which is what they're doing, the Democrats are doing right now, or you're the enemy and we'll destroy the plane. This is what happened in Stockholm, Sweden in the 1970s. Half of the passengers on the plane took the side of the terrorists. This is what happens. They use this false dichotomy. And you know what? What does it profit a man or woman to gain the world but lose their soul? See, if we have these underpinnings, in like the movie, the Braveheart movie, they can take my life, but they can't take my freedom, is what William Wallace said. But he was deeply embedded in the principles of freedom. If you're not embedded in the principles of freedom, then you will succumb to a false dichotomy.
Well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Which principles of freedom are you embedded in? Are you embedded?
That's a good question.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the people out there that are encouraging transition, they believe they're embedded in the principles of freedom. So there are two principles of freedom that are being preached out there. Freedom from the craziness and sin of the world, or freedom from God? Freedom to do whatever you wish without boundaries? See what I'm saying?
Well, there's two sides to every coin, isn't
That's
there?
right. Exactly right.
There's the truth side of the coin, and then there's the lie side
The
of the
counterfeit. There's
Yeah.
always a counterfeit, David. Everything that God has created and everything that he stands for, the enemy, Satan, has the counterfeit on the other side of the coin that looks like it sounds, he makes it sound like it, but it's absolutely a counterfeit.
Yeah, and the other thing is, my friend Al on the chat, Kahuna Al, says she hated the boy who molested her. That was an invitation for her to her false new identity. But here's the thing: she had already been predisposed, and all that was fuel on the fire, was gasoline on the fire. This is see what we do is we look for evidence or reasons to either validate or invalidate how we feel. Now, if we have a basis of truth, let's say we will refer to the scripture, then the scripture will come to us in those moments, those whatever it is that you have learned that helps you to say, wait a minute, I got to step back from this. I can't allow this to take over my life. But the dark side will provide you with all kinds of rationalizations and reasons why you should go ahead and go with it. Just like Chloe Cole, she was molested by a boy, and but that boy was also an agent in the Matrix. He was occupied by the enemy, and the enemy understood that he could get to Chloe Cole through an agent, just like every one of us.
We hate what happens to us, David. When we're young, we don't have the armor to protect ourselves, the spiritual armor. We just don't have it. So we are hurt, we're attacked, we are maligned, we're teased, we're molested, all these things. And what is that? All these things that come through other people, the sin that comes through other people, and gives us an identity that's not us, and we hate it. We don't like it because these people are giving us a definition of who we are, and we're taking it. Are we, awful people? Are we not worth loving? Are we, dirty? All these things that people do to us, David, they stain us. They stain us, and it becomes a dirty stain that we're walking around with, and we're uncomfortable because we're wearing this garment that is not ours. And doesn't it say that he will make our garments as white as snow? That's why we look to God, because he says, look to me, I have made you clean. I have made you clean. If you look at me and accept the identity from me, now you don't have to define yourself by everything that's been done to you. And you don't have to hate yourself for what the world has made you.
I remember a show my dad was doing in which somebody had sent him an article about a doctor who believed that he had found a cure for cancer. And he sent out a letter to 500 of his patients, and only 3 people showed up to find out what it is that he could do for them. And then the study further explained that there was one commonality between all of his patients, and that was that they all somehow deeply believed that they were victims. Now, you talk about the stain. That's the human stain.
Yeah.
The idea that we are victims, and I will tell you that that's unforgiveness. Because as long you will not continue to believe you're a victim, as long you can only continue to believe you're a victim as long as you hold a judgment or a feeling or hatred toward the victimizer at some level. And you may not even remember the face or the moment, but there's something that you're holding on to. And that something that you're holding on to is the imposition of the stain that taints your entire physiology. It makes you sick.
And to a degree, we are all victims and victimized by someone. But what helps us to shed that victim identity? Because the victim identity sees ourselves as less than, as
well, it's fueled by resentment. It's
yes,
fueled by
yes.
in other words, you just keep throwing fuel on the fire to keep that fire alive because it makes you somehow, and I think there's a subconscious belief that there's a certain specialness to you because you're a victim. Now, we got to take a quick break
Ooh,
here.
That's a good one.
Oh, yeah. Like for me, I have my finger, which I lost, but I never even noticed it until, I mean, it wasn't the kind of thing that allowed me to escape from the rest of my life. But some people use that. Quick break, and we'll be right back. FHU.com.
I want to respond to that on the other side.
Okay, excellent. All right, in 3, 2, 1. All right, continuing. And Jen, you wanted to respond to something that was
You
said.
said that as a victim, you can start to feel special for being a victim. And I would say that is a very powerful tool that has been used politically for a very long time, making people think they are victims and they have a right to be angry now. They have a right to take from the people that have because they were victims. So even though we've all been victimized to some degree by someone, it can create a victim identity that you embrace. And you tend to become, you tend to become the victim in situations, and you continue to nurture and feed that identity. But I say this, are you willing to trade in your victim identity for your true identity in Christ and in the Creator? In order to do that, you have to lay it all down. Every memory that's tied to that identity, are you willing to lay it down for a new identity? You have to give up your resentment, your hate. You have to give it all up to become who you were really created to be.
So, speaking of the victim identity, there is a victim class, and from that they derive the motivation to do the things that they do. And now we see the victim class out there yelling, and because they identify, you think about it objectively, these people that ICE is trying to round up, they are the lowest dregs of our society. Now, can you imagine identifying with the lowest of the low? Because this is what they're being called. They are the lowest of those child molesters and all the rest of it. Can you imagine identifying with that? Now, the other thing that's really interesting is that when you say, and this is very true, that you develop a victim identity, that identity that develops within you is in direct opposition to your original identity, which is loved by your Creator.
Yes.
Yet you choose to be loved by the world.
Yes.
Because the world validates the sickness.
Yes. Yes. And I saw this little tiny reel that came by, or it was either a reel or something I read, where this woman, she had a hard childhood and she was, a Christian, and this question came through her, it was from her, but through her, that said, she was like, oh my gosh, is pain my idol? And the answer came from the Spirit, said, yes. You've actually indulged and made pain your idol. Are you willing to give up your victim identity with the pain of life and receive a new identity to be born again? That is the offer that is in front of you.
Yeah, the victim identity. My dad talked about this, and it's actually a medically recognized aspect of cancer, which is the cancer identity. But the cancer identity is based around this thing that you just described, that there is another identity that has taken up residence in us, that is fueled by negative emotions, which floods your system with all kinds of toxins. And it literally, it's almost like a ticking time bomb that has been placed there by an adversary to kill you. And there are people that have spontaneous remissions. There's a really interesting documentary called Heal, Heal, Heal. And they talk to people who had spontaneous remissions, and they talk about a change of attitude. That's the thing that saved their life.
Yeah.
Just saying. You know, I remember when the reason I brought this up is because I remember when my dad was talking about this, and I said, wait a minute, say that again. That these people, they all had this idea, this one common thing, that they all felt like they were victims. And I thought, that's me. Because I remember when I was 3 years old, my finger got chopped off. And the way my mom reacted to it made me feel like I was a victim. And so I carried that with me my whole life. Like, yeah, I'm a victim. And I said, see here, I got the evidence of it right here. It's on my hand. You know, I wasn't able to become a rock star or whatever the hell it was.
Right.
And so I, you know, it took me until I was in my 50s to have that realization. It's like, yeah, I've always felt like I was a victim. Now that underlying that is resentments. There are resentments that underlie the idea that you're a victim. And then, unfortunately, like Chloe Cole, she had to find, you know, she had to make a huge mistake. And thank God she was just awakened. She had this realization like, oh my God, I made a huge mistake. You know, that's actually, that is, the word repentance means turn around.
Yeah, that is repentance.
That's really what it is.
She didn't blame
It's
her
that
parents.
simple.
She
No.
realized. That's huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
I think we have time for one more Chloe Cole here.
All right.
Here it comes.
I realized after maturing a bit more that a child does not, in fact, know who they are. At 12 years old, I realized that I wanted to be what I always was, and forever will be, a woman. With this realization came a series of challenges that were far worse than the transition. Somehow, I had to get myself off these drugs and tell everyone in my entire life that I was not who I said I was. My parents were shocked and felt like they failed me on every level imaginable. My friends all turned against me because I was evidence that their beliefs were a lie. I was a joke. I was a fraud. I was many years behind in development, incapable of feeding my future children, and worst of all, completely alone. Even the medical professionals who got me into this mess now have no idea what to do with me, and they refuse to help me. It almost killed me, as it has killed many who regret transition. The big question still remains. I was a 12-year-old introduced to the idea that they could do something as ridiculous as change their sex.
The doctors refused to help her.
That is heart-wrenching to hear her say. She expressed herself very well. I mean, she took us right through her pain and suffering there. After realizing it, there was no one to help her. Her friends rejected her because now she said that that she now made, because of her choice, she now made them feel like what they were doing wasn't right. She became completely alone. All the people that had accepted her no longer did. That's a courageous journey.
She's an amazing human being. She really is. I mean, we don't even deserve her. She's so amazing. But we'll take a quick break here and come back with another segment. And FHU.com is where you find out about the Be Still and Know so that you won't make these insane mistakes. We'll be right back. And welcome back. It is Perilous World Radio. Jan Masters joining me today. We're having this interesting conversation. I want to play that clip again because there's so much there to sort of unpack. Here comes this Chloe Cole talking about how doctors would not help her.
I realized after maturing a bit more that a child does not, in fact, know who they are. At 12 years old, I realized that I wanted to be what I always was, and forever will be, a woman. With this realization came a series of challenges that were far worse than the transition.
Yeah, it's really sad because
She wanted
this
to
part
be
of
what
it
she always
was.
a woman. Wow.
But see, she was also turned against that idea to begin with. That, see, if you, I know how it's like, for example, some people have terrible fathers.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that this is where liberalism got its
Yeah.
genesis.
I believe that.
You know, because
Mhm.
the father is, in a sense, the representation
That's
of the
right.
creator.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to be like what hurt you
Right.
somehow. And so this young woman who is developing, and apparently she was advanced at her 12-year-old age, as some women are, more
Mm-hmm.
developed than others. And then some people were looking at her in this way, and then she hears all these other people, oh, you don't have to be that. You don't. So there's an idea there, because the liberalism means, in a sense, you want to be the opposite of what it is that you don't want to be.
Yeah. Your hatred is now toward what you are. And now here's an opportunity to change what you are. This is all about identity. It's all about identity. What do they say? Identity politics.
Mhm.
Identity. Everything is about identity. Where is your identity? What is your identity grounded in? Where are you? How do you define yourself? And all of us will be defined by the world to some degree growing up. All of us. But all of us, and then we will feel, but we will feel empty, David, even if we are successful at creating a worldly identity that's acceptable. There will still be an emptiness when you lay your head down at night, because it's an illusion until you find the true identity of the one that truly conceived of you in his heart before he even made you. He knew you before you were in your mother's womb. There's the identity. Right there, you need to seek the one who designed you.
I remember being, look, here's the truth. We're all in transition, period.
Mm-hmm.
You're moving from one phase of life to another continually. Nothing is transitory. Everything is in a state of change. Everything. Now you think, oh, this is who I've been ever since I was a kid. No, not really. Because through realizations, there is either forward or backward transformation, right? So you could have dark realizations.
Oh, I don't have to believe anything anybody tells me.
Or you have a realization that is revealed to you by your conscience. You hear something and it goes, oh yeah, that makes sense to me. There's a constant transition from one part of your life to the next, day by day. Every day is a transitional. I used to call them microcycles. One day is a microcycle. What you do in that day has a huge bearing on the next day and the day after that.
And
There's
many
a domino effect.
of those days can just feel like Groundhog Day, the same thing over and over and over, till you find your way out of it. But I think most people have a discomfort with who they are, that they've become from the world, whether it was, David, a negative identity or a positive identity, right? You can have a negative identity from being berated and hurt and tortured and labeled, or you can have a positive identity like a famous movie star. Everybody puts you up on this pedestal, but both will create conflict.
Yeah.
And that identity that the Father created for you, He calls it. It's always being called. He's trying to call you out of the worldly identity. What did he say about the Jews? I'm setting you apart for myself. And that is what he does with us when we finally realize that the world is not going to satisfy us. It is not going to complete us. It is not what we were created to get our identity from. Then our spirit will yearn for him, and he will lead us to that which exposes us to that and helps us to understand that.
I'm so glad that you brought up Groundhog Day because it is such a brilliant movie. I watched it a couple years ago with the director's comments. It's even better with the directors. Usually it's not.
My son just told me about that movie and explained more to it. And I thought, wow.
Oh no, it's a brilliant movie. And the whole premise of the movie is this guy's a selfish narcissist.
Right.
Only cares about himself, nobody else. He meets the woman, a newscaster, because he's a newscaster, and he wants to have this woman, and she won't have anything to do with him. And then he wakes up on Groundhog Day, and it just starts the cycle of him going through all these crazy phases of, even driving his truck off a cliff, and wakes up the next morning. He couldn't do anything that wouldn't start all over again. And so finally, at a certain point, and this obviously is all spoiler. If you haven't seen it, you should.
Yeah.
But at some point, he starts to decide that instead of wasting his life doing all these crazy things, he starts doing good things.
Right.
It's brilliant in the sense that, over time, because she has to meet him every day all over again.
Right.
Right. The girl that he's interested in. And over this period of time, he learns how to play the piano. He's helping these old ladies get a cat out of a tree. He does all these amazing little meaningless things that are actually based on goodwill.
And that's what my son said. He said,
in the end, go ahead.
Well, he said, one day he helps this old guy, or he helps somebody.
Oh, somebody's choking.
Yeah. And he said, all of a sudden, now he feels differently.
Him. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he feels differently. Like there's something about.
No, he didn't even realize that he had changed that much. This is the beauty part of it.
Yeah.
He had learned how to do, what do you call it?
Resuscitation.
Yeah, he learned how to do that. He learned all these amazing things that we didn't get to see him do all of them. But and in that moment, she saw him as a hero, as opposed to a zero, which he used to be. He was just a self-serving piece of garbage.
Isn't that what we were talking about earlier?
Yeah.
If you are the God of your life, then you have not figured it out yet. It's not about you. It's about you on some degree with God, but it's about you being a vessel of caring for others, not just being the king of your universe. And in other words, being your own God.
Yeah, that's what the story is actually about. He transitioned from being just a selfish user to actually making a contribution but it was a choice that he made to transition because he had time to do it. And it was a natural, first of all, he did all these crazy things. Then the natural next step was do good things. And it wasn't outcome based. He wasn't trying to get the girl anymore. He stopped focusing on the things that he wanted and just started doing the right thing because it was the most natural thing for him to do.
Well, and now think about this. Everybody out there, think about your own life, okay? Think about when you are grabbing for yourself and you get what you want. It never seems to really satisfy. There's something, it's like a poison fruit when you are feeding your greed or any sin in your life. It really does not feed you the way you think it's going to feed you. Mm-mm. Being a vessel and allowing that, the love of God, because it's God's love, David. that flows through us when we do things. When you realize my nature is just to be selfish, but when God uses me and that love flows through me, it doesn't only feed the other person, it feeds me.
Yeah.
See? It feeds yourself in a way that going for the gusto and get everything you want never will.
It what it does is it builds that alternative identity within you. And if you see people, I think that high school reunions are interesting for this reason. You haven't seen somebody in 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
You see them in their advanced stage of life, and you could see what life has done to them or what they've done to themselves in life. Their hair is falling out, the wrinkles, who knows what it is? They're overweight, whatever.
Come on now, we all age.
No, but I know, but some people age more graciously than others. And I do believe that I don't think it's just genetic. I think that a person's attitude determines a lot about how life treats them and their relationship, with the world, and whether or not they're good people or selfish people. I just think that's a measure of things. That's all. I mean, I actually have not been to a high school reunion, but I've seen people that I haven't seen in 25, 30, 40 years. And, some of them are just really just like they were when I saw them in high school. Anyway, that's just a point.
Yeah, I get it.
Quick break here and one last segment. I've got a couple more clips of Chloe Cole. FHU.com is where you find out more. All right. In 3, 2, 1.
Somehow, I had to get myself off these drugs and tell everyone in my entire life that I was not who I said I was. My parents were shocked and felt like they failed me on every level imaginable. My friends all turned against me because I was evidence that their beliefs were a lie. I was a joke. I was a fraud. I was many years behind in development, incapable of feeding my future children, and worst of all, completely alone. Even the medical professionals who got me into this mess now have no idea what to do with me, and they refuse to help me. It almost killed me, as it has killed many who regret transition. The big question still remains. I was a 12-year-old introduced to the idea that they could do something as ridiculous as change their sex. Even in person, I got more attention. Girls would have crushes on me, and I would have people come up to me in the hallways asking to make friends, and it was unprecedented for me. I felt like a celebrity. Being a kid, I didn't know just how superficial these relationships were until they all suddenly abandoned me just for struggling to become who I am. Much of this gender confusion is based on old regressive stereotypes of men and women, which are now being reinforced with hormones and surgeries. Women can have short hair and be interested in playing sports and partaking in physical activities. Men can grow their hair out and wear makeup. It does not change their biology. The truth is, this practice is harming more and more children every day.
Yeah, she's amazing. She
Wow.
said
She's brilliant.
This is a speech from 5 years ago.
Yeah. Wow. She's a spokesperson, really.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Now,
And
she
she's the
said
one
something
that they
really
talk to.
Yeah. She said something really interesting. When she was transitioned, she became like a celebrity.
Yeah.
They wanted to be friends with her, and she was getting attention. And this is exactly why I said that the Kardashian husband, what's his name, that became a woman?
Oh, Bruce Jenner.
Bruce. I swear that is why he did it too. Because you know what?
To become a celebrity? Yeah.
Let me tell you why.
Yeah.
He was a celebrity for winning the decathlon when I was young. He was like the ultimate male. But in the Kardashian home, he was a wallflower. Because the women, they were the stars, they were the beautiful, the makeup, he was a wallflower. And so what did he do? He outdid them by becoming a man, becoming a woman. He got on the front of magazines. He found his stardom again, David. I'm telling you, he's like, if I can't get attention for being the best man. Now I'm going to be the best woman.
I
It's
think that's
all-
I think it's a great point. And I heard an interview with him talking about this.
Mm,
And I don't know if this is true, but he said that he had wanted to do it for a long time.
yeah. Interesting. He
and
may
now
not
his
even know
father-
why. He may
Oh,
not
no,
even
but
know.
I can tell you because he
why.
talked
Yeah.
about his father.
Okay.
Father was, I believe, he was a military man. I think he was a Marine.
Mm-hmm.
Tough guy.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So as a female, he would have received maybe better treatment. That's the other thing about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to be famous. It's one thing to be, a sports hero and so on. but-
Attention. Good,
Attention.
positive attention.
And reinforcement.
Well, and there we have, okay, a worldly identity that he decided to put on to get the attention or love, David, that everybody's looking for. You know, the Grammys was on, I think, last weekend.
Yeah.
And, oh gosh, let's see. Let me just look here real quick. The girl,
Billie Eilish?
Nicki Minaj.
Oh, yeah.
She came out with these tweets now that's basically exposing all these musicians for their satanic worship and everything.
Yep.
And it's pretty amazing.
Oh, she's ultra MAGA. She's
Yeah.
ultra MAGA,
Oh,
but
yeah.
you know what? She's super common sense reasonable.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. But I'm going to bring a point back around that I said earlier. When they show these award shows, which I did not watch, the Oscars,
I
the
don't watch it.
Grammys, and then they
Yeah.
have the pre-show and the people on the red carpet. Oh, look at, who are you wearing? Who are you wearing? Oscar de la Renta, this and that. So I ask you out there, listeners, who are you wearing? Who are you wearing as you go out in the world? Are you wearing the stained garments that the world has given you, or the sparkly, fashionable garments of the world?
Let me,
Yeah.
that's a great question. Let me play with the last clip of Chloe Cole.
Okay.
What will we do to protect this most vulnerable group? Up until now, the media has been parroting the same ideologically driven talking points. Affirm, affirm, affirm. The closest I've touched to mainstream media is a Forbes journalist who wrote a hit piece on me calling basic human biology transphobic. There are many detransitioners speaking out, and they are ignored by the institutions most responsible for the search of truth. Up until today, most politicians on the left and right have done nothing but get into Twitter fights on this issue. There is no second chance at childhood, so we must do our best as adults to guide our children to pathways that lead to healthy bodies and minds instead of depression and disfigurement. No child deserves to suffer under the knife of a gender-affirming surgeon. America's children, all children, deserve better. Thank you.
She's amazing. Go ahead.
She's amazing. But my point was, she finally shed the garments, the wrong
Yeah.
garments, and that's what somebody here says, wear the shield of God, the cloak of Jesus. And that's what he says he will do for you. I will give you my identity. I will cover you. So that's my last point.
Yeah, and we got 30 seconds left. Look, if people, and again, there's no guarantee, even if you're brought up in a wonderful home, the devil wants you even more.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to give your kids the tools, the right tools. And of course, what my dad discovered, the Be Still No exercise, is the most powerful tool for realigning you with God's purpose. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Thanks, Jan.
Yep.
There it is.
All right.
Time goes fast.
Yes, it does. Thank you, everyone on the chat, for your comments.
Yeah, we're pretty busy on the chat today.
Yep.
All right.
So, Christian, you in there? Oh, there you are. Okay.